Hello, grade 6, and welcome to your third video of the year. So this video is going to explain a little bit about what an experiment is, because we're going to talk about experiments and variables before we start talking about laboratories and places that scientists work. So an experiment, when you hear that term, basically what it means is a process in which we control certain things. So we change things, but we control it to see what happens. Then we use those observations to be able to answer questions, and sometimes even have more questions than we started with. Then we can start answering those secondary questions, then create another set of questions, and as that process continues, the answers we get more precise and more accurate, which is kind of what a scientist is looking for. So when you are doing an experiment, there's these different things known as variables. I'm going to go over the different kinds right now. So the first one I want to talk about is an independent variable. So a variable is anything that we control in an experiment, but an independent variable doesn't depend on anything else. It's the reason why we call it an independent variable. So for example, in an experiment where you are growing a plant in different soils, the independent variable would be the soil. You take that soil, you put it in a pot, you put the seed in it. This doesn't change. You controlled this. It is independent. The sandy soil, the clay soil, or the top soil that you would put in that plant base wouldn't change. You did it. Independent variable, I control it. Then there's the dependent variable. This depends on the thing that we're changing. So the size of the plant, how healthy it is, how green it is, how well it grows in general. These things would be known as the dependent variables. They depend on what we did originally. So if we put that clay soil in a plant, then maybe the plant doesn't grow as high because what we're recording, the part where it's not growing as high, that's a dependent variable. Then there's something else known as the control. So when you have an experiment, you're trying to find out about changes. So you have to have an example of what happens normally. So let's say, for example, you have a plant with a lot of water, a plant with a little bit of water. Then what you would do is make a control variable, and this would be the plant that gets the normal amount of water you use to water all of your other plants every day. You give one a little bit less, one a little bit more. The control variable is the one that remains constant. It's going to be the same. All right? So, yeah. And that's the three kinds of variables. So reviewing it again, you have the independent variable, which I remember independent variable, I change it. The dependent variable, what we're measuring, this is the difference, this is the change. It's dependent on what I did. Then there's the control variable. The control variable is what we compare it to. It's controlled. That's just the normal process of how it exists. These three things together create an experiment. And with those three things, we can then analyze them and come to conclusions and be able to change them even more drastically later on. And so these are kind of things I want you to keep in mind. We're going to be referring to the dependent variable, independent variable, and control variable in our experiments. So if you have any questions about those things, there are several YouTube videos out there. Sometimes that helps some people out. You could look up the definition on Google, or you can ask me and I will help clarify that for you to the best of my abilities. If you find a video that you find is more informative than what I've given you, please make sure that you put those in the comments. So I hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're ready to come in on Tuesday or Wednesday. Thank you very much, grade 6.